Oh, okay. So the Jackets, I believe, first game is Thursday. I have not done a preview on them yet. I've been contemplating it for a little bit, kind of trying to decide, trying to make kind of tough decisions on where I think they'll be, and I think I got it figured out. It is funny that I'm recording this. I decided to record this, of course, right after I watched the Steve Dangle podcast preview for him, and that kind of gave me some ideas of people who don't follow the Jackets as closely, kind of what they think about them. I was actually surprised at how well they knew the Jackets, to be honest, because it does feel like a lot of the time they don't follow other teams very closely, but they seem to be pretty knowledgeable on the Jackets. I think they hit a good amount of stuff. They mentioned Greaves, which obviously I love. But yeah, so I'm going to get into this. I'm going to say what I think they need to do. I saw their over-under was 84.5. My reaction to that is I think they're easily over, to be honest. I think the Flyers, Penguins, and Islanders are very bad, and I think that's a lot of teams will be getting a lot of wins from those three teams. The Rangers will be improved, but I don't see the Blue Jackets getting worse than they were last year. They did lose prospects, I guess, and they lost JVR, but other than that, they have made their actual roster better in promoting Jet Greaves to the NHL. Honestly, Fedotov's had a solid preseason, so I guess we're starting with the goaltending here. But Jet Greaves being promoted to the NHL, adding Fedotov, who's looked decent and cannot be worse than Tarasov, having him play in the AHL and calling him up if need be, I think is a good move. I think that we paid too much for Coyle, but I think that makes the NHL roster better. I think Miles Wood is a person on the Jackets. I don't know if he necessarily makes the team better or not. But yeah, I think that they've made the NHL roster better, and I think they've suffered a little bit in the prospect area. But I think their team overall is better than they were last season. So starting with goaltending, I guess, obviously improved. Jet Greaves is a very good goaltender. I don't think he's a .938 like he was last year, but I think he's a .910. I think he could be a .910 guy. I don't think he'll win the Calder because I think that will easily go to Demidov. Even if Demidov is mid, he plays for Montreal, so he will probably win it. But I think that Jet Greaves will be in the running for it. Again, I don't think he'll win, but I think he'll be in the running. Merzlikins, I think if he plays less, that only benefits him, to be honest. He is better when he plays less. He had a solid middle of the season, and it derailed at the end. He was rocking with a very close to 900, which isn't great, but close to a 900 is what the Jackets needed, to be honest, and he kind of fell off near the end. So, to an 891. And so I think him playing less, Jet playing more is simply just helpful for both of them, and it really only benefits the Jackets in general. So that is good. I think that moving on to the defense a little bit, I think we overpaid for Provorov, but I don't really think that matters too much. I think Provorov is a $6.5, $7 million defenseman. I believe we paid him 8 or 8.5. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I don't think he's worth that. But if in the preseason lines haven't been this for the defense, but if he continues to play with Matejchuk and kind of helps him out a little bit, I think that's very solid. I think that's a good thing, and that gives Provorov a little bit more responsibility, and it kind of lets Matejchuk not cheat, but play a little more offense. Again, the lines in the preseason haven't been that, but Matejchuk had, I think, a slight injury, so that could be the reason for that. But I think the defense literally has stayed the exact same. They did lose Damon Hunt to Minnesota, which is a little annoying considering for some reason we had him make, I think he didn't make the team, I guess, technically, but I don't know what we were doing there, to be honest. Considering we traded, I mean, we got a first round pick as well, but we also got Damon Hunt in that trade, and he went right back to Minnesota. So that's a little rough, but it's fine. But yeah, I think the defense has largely stayed the same. I think Jake Christensen has looked very good in the preseason, and if he's the 7th D-man, I got no complaints about that. I think Goodbranson doesn't have to play every night, so I think that's where you could see Christensen playing a little more. But yeah, I think Severson. I don't like I have hated Severson quite honestly since he has been on the Jackets, but I personally think he's looked solid in preseason. I've heard some complaints. I think he's playing more offense. He doesn't look anything like Zach Werenski. This is going to sound so bad. He's kind of doing, I saw it on one of the goals. He's playing a lot more offense, which I think is helpful for his game because he was more of an offensive defenseman, kind of looking at his numbers, and he was a big impact. He has a huge impact on one of the goals against the Capitals in the preseason. So I like that. I like that he is that he's kind of playing more offense, to be honest. So defense, I think largely stays the same. Zach Werenski, Dante Fabro. Fabro's had a rough preseason. I think he'll be fine, but man, he had a rough game against the Capitals the other night. I don't think that matters too much. I think the pairings should honestly stay relatively the same. Werenski, Fabro, Provorov, Matejchuk, Severson, Goodbranson is weird. I think it could be maybe Matejchuk, Goodbranson, and Severson, Provorov, which sounds like horrible defense, but pretty solid offense, but awful defense. But I think the defense as a whole is decent. I think if Werenski goes down, there's going to be trouble. But if Werenski can stay healthy like he did for most of last season, cross my fingers, knock on wood, everything that you can do to make sure this guy has a good season or a healthy season is appreciated. If he can stay healthy, I think this defense is middle of the pack, and that's what it needs to be because the Blue Jackets offense is very good. And that does come from a little bit of the defense with Provorov creating a good amount of offense. Severson does create some offense. Matejchuk will create more offense than he did last year, I guarantee that. And obviously, Werenski creates an insane amount of offense. But the forwards themselves, I mean, we could just go down the list. These guys can score goals. I mean, I love actually being able to say that too, because when was the last time we were able to say, other than last year, when was the last time we were able to say the Jackets can score goals, right? So, I mean, let's go down the list. We got obviously Werenski, but Monahan over a point a game last year. But we'll start with most goals. Most points from forwards. Marchenko 74 points last year. Ken Johnson 57 in only 68 games. Sean Monahan 57 points in only 54 games. Adam Fantilli 54 points, 31 goals as a 20-year-old. Voronkov 47 points in 73 games. These guys aren't even playing full seasons. Cole Sillinger 33 points in 66 games. These guys can score. I mean, Marchenko had 31 goals. Ken Johnson had 24 in just 68 games. Adam Fantilli had 31. Voronkov had 23 and 73. These guys can score. Olivier had 18. They can score, and I love that. I love that they can score. I think that Chinnikov will... Oh, man, Chinnikov. We'll get to him later. But that's what I like about this offense. They can score. I think if they can kind of continue what they were doing last year with the goal scoring, we should be all right. I think that you might see a bit of a points per game regression from Monahan. Monahan historically hasn't been over a point a game. He's had one other season where he was over a point a game, but historically that's not really where he's around. But again, if he plays a healthy season and has 65 points, I mean, it's a worse point per game, but I mean, it's more points. And that's ultimately what they need. They need guys healthy. Johnson, if he plays 82 games and he gets, again, 65 points, is it as good of a point per game? No, but that's kind of what they need. They need more points. So Not mad about the offensive production. I would just like them to be a little more healthy. The only person in the top 5 for points scoring for forwards last year, the only person that played a full season out of them was Fantilli. And he was actually the only person in the top 5 in forward point scoring that even played 75 games. So they weren't really healthy last year, and they were still able to put the puck in the back of the net. So I think if they can stay relatively healthy, then they're dangerous on offense at least. So I love that. We're going to talk about some gripes here, though. I don't like that Luca Del Belbaluz was sent back to the AHL. I think that it's kind of hurting the team that they are keeping Chinnikov on the team and playing him on a third and fourth line role when Luca Del Belbaluz is honestly a better player than him and is perfectly fine playing that role. Chinnikov wants to be in the top 6. He's not good enough for the top 6. Del Belbaluz is probably good enough for the Jackets' top 6. They won't put him there. He's fine playing in a third line role, and they send him down to the minors and keep Chinnikov. It honestly makes no sense. I don't like it at all. Del Belbaluz had a great preseason. Chinnikov did not, and they, again, demoted him back down to the fourth line. I really don't get it. I think that that's a little ridiculous, to be honest. But at the end of the day, if Luca Del Belbaluz is what stops you from making the playoffs, doesn't really matter, because that's not what should be making or breaking your season is Luca Del Belbaluz. But I think he should have made the team. Yeah, and I believe Dean Evison even said that he was good enough to play in the NHL. So, and they've been saying it all preseason. It's not about your contract. Well, clearly it is. I mean, let's just be honest. Clearly it's about your contract. Luca Del Belbaluz still on that ELC, I believe. So, yeah, clearly it's about their contracts, but whatever, it's fine. That's all I got for complaints, really. I think this team is a good team. I think they're easily over 84.5. I think they're like a 90, 91 point team. The only problem is I think the top of the division is very good and the bottom of the division is very bad. So I think the Rangers bounce back. I think obviously Carolina's good. If New Jersey can stay healthy, they're very good. And the Capitals, while I don't think they're a 111-point team that they were last year, are also very good. So it's really hard, honestly, to decide whether they're going to be in a playoff spot or not, because the East is very competitive for the most part. Even the lower teams in the Atlantic are still very solid teams. While I do love shitting on Buffalo, they're not a bad team, they're a bad franchise, which is coming from a Jackets fan. So I'm allowed to say that. So I think the East is very, very solid. So I think it's kind of going to be hard to slip in a playoff spot. I see them fourth or fifth in the Metropolitan. I don't honestly know if fourth in the Metro is good enough to get in the playoffs, and I know damn well that fifth isn't. I really don't know. It is such a toss-up for me whether this team makes the playoffs or not. I think a lot of it depends on Jet and Elvis. If Jet is the 9-10 goalie like I think he is, I honestly think that they're easily in. Because with Elvis with an 891 and Jet Greaves with a 938, but for 11 games, and most of that was in 7 games, and they were 2 points out. I feel like if they can get that 9-10 from Jet and an 895 even from Elvis, that they are easily a playoff team. But if Jet's a 905 and Elvis is that 890, then I don't think they are. It's really depending on the goaltending for me, because not much has changed nothing really changed defensively, but really only Charlie Coyle was the most notable of the offensive changes, and I don't think that's going to just really make the Blue Jackets season that much better. I really think it depends on a lot of Jet and Elvis. So I'll say this. I can't give you a definitive answer, to be honest with you. I'll say if Jet has a 9-10, this team has 94 points and they're easily in the playoffs. And if Elvis has like an 897. And if Jet Greaves has a 904, 903, and Elvis has an 891 again, I think they're like an 88-point team, and they missed the playoffs. So that's where I'm going to say, but right now I'm leaning no. Right now I'm leaning they're like an 89, 90-point team like they were last year, and they will miss the playoffs. But I think, again, the future is very bright. I think you see a little bit of a Fantilli jump this year. I think he hits probably 70 points. Again, it's hard to see this team not making the playoffs with the offense that they could possibly have. If Fantilli and Johnson stay healthy and make that jump, it's hard to say no. It really is hard to say no to playoffs. But the Metro at the top is very good. I don't know how else to explain it. It's like there's so little wiggle room. I think two things can be true: that the Jackets are a good team, and that the Metro is insane. Like at the top, at least, it's so little wiggle room for teams to really fall off. And with teams like the Rangers, who I do not think are going to be nearly as bad as they were last year, it's really hard seeing the Jackets kind of leapfrog any of these teams. Now, with New Jersey's injury luck, I could definitely see it. It really depends a lot if New Jersey stays healthy, which they have had horrible luck doing. If New Jersey isn't healthy, I can see the Jackets sliding into that third spot or fourth spot relatively easily and making the playoffs. But if New Jersey's a healthy team, I think it's fourth or fifth, and I don't think fourth is good enough in the Metro to make the playoffs. So I'm leaning no. But I think that, again, we'll keep seeing steps forward, and I think the season after this one is their year. I'm never very hype on the Blue Jackets ever because they're not a very good franchise, but they are making steps in the right direction, and I think they'll get there eventually. I don't think next year's their year, but I think the year after is. I think that's when they make their biggest jump, and I think they make the playoffs the year after this one. And that's all I got for now. But, yeah.